But because my camera was so big, there was no hiding it. And I also didn't really feel comfortable a lot of the times, like just taking a photo without someone looking. Like I never didn't feel right. So I always had to engage with them and ask them. And a lot of the times, like people were like, why? Why do you want to take my photo? Like they really didn't understand it. And all I could say in my head, I'm like, yo, I have one goal, and it's to show Grenada to the world. You know, I don't know, but I know you, where you're looking, where you're set up, you look beautiful, you have a story to tell, and I want to show you to the world, you know? And you're like, I don't know what this man's talking about. Show me to the world. Take a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Welcome back to another episode of In We Blood. I need to start saying that. Today I'm here with Jerawl, who is a portrait photographer. Thank you, Jerawl, for being here. One of your focuses in your portrait photography is really, you know, based on the conversations that we've had, is really about capturing Black stories, right? Yep. Eventually it'll expand into just human stories. But can you tell me a little bit about, you know, how you got started in photography and why specifically you want to tell these stories?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on the show. It's an amazing platform that you're building.
Thank you.
It aligns super well with what I'm trying to create and, you know, the stories that we're trying to push. But yeah, photography for me really just started more as like a hobby. I was traveling at the time and I just wanted to document, you know, people, places, things. So yeah, photos just felt like the best medium. Video is great, but for me, I wanted like the quicker satisfaction, just go out on my own, take a photo and be able to see it. I really felt like photography, specifically film photography, was really intimate. You know, it really connected me with whoever I was photographing or whatever I was photographing. And over time, you know, that photography evolved from, you know, places and cityscapes and landscapes to people and their stories. And you know, I got really obsessed with the idea of storytelling, like through people, through set design, through art direction, but still really honoring everyday people. Yeah. You know, I feel like photography sometimes can be, you sometimes have to have your hands on it to create a story. It's not really just taking a photo and clicking a button, you know, but it's really trying to create the story, create the atmosphere, create the environment, create the emotion. But when you're in rich cultural places such as Grenada, such as parts of Toronto, New York, you know, the people are those stories. Yeah. Yeah. Their identity, their life, you know, is vibrant and is worth sharing and worth exposing. And I think as like a Black creative, you know, as a Black person in Toronto, there's a lot of us here, but we're spread out like all over the globe. You know, and we come from all these different aspects and dialects. And for me, I thought it was really beautiful, the fact that we still were inherently the same in different ways. So even though we were different, maybe how we eat, maybe how we communicate, maybe how we get together as a family and as friends and celebrate each other, all felt very much coming from this like one place. So yeah, photography was kind of like my tool, my medium to connect with people, to connect with places, and really explore who they were. You know, my hope was if I could shine a light on this person, this individual, maybe that can also help someone further get inspired, further understand themselves, you know, further connect with their lineage, their heritage. And that was really what was important to me. It's been like the driving force of photography as of late, and highlighting these Black stories, respecting and coveting Grenada, you know what I mean? And bigging Grenada up, you know?
So you mean like having, I guess, like developing systemic, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. So you're saying like, okay, we need more to be done in society and culture to push and preserve the culture?
I guess for a long time, I've been able to recognize Black American culture. I've been able to recognize African culture. And I think I've interacted with Caribbean culture on like a music level, on a food level, on that cultural level. But everything else, I feel like I haven't been able to really connect with or wasn't celebrated as, at least for me, outside of living in Grenada.
I hear what you're saying.
You know what I mean? When you live here, it's always just about our tourism, our know for it. When I tell people I'm from Grenada, they don't know where Grenada is and nothing about it. So I guess that's my drive, and the drive to like continue to be a part of the wave that's developing Grenada, that's developing the Caribbean, that's creating and showing an identity that's beyond our beaches, beyond our resorts, you know. And
so before we started talking about you really going to Grenada and hopefully eventually more islands in the Caribbean and really documenting the culture in ways that people wouldn't normally see, I wanted to ask you, like, what was the reason for you feeling like you needed to do that, or like the drive behind that?
Yeah, for sure. I think I was searching for my own understanding of Grenada. I wanted to understand it more deeply. I felt like there was a lot to learn from my own island. I think I've always had, it's kind of like low-key, like a little grudge, you know, that Grenada's always been like little brother. And I'm like, nah, Grenada's not. Grenada has so much to it, so much beauty, so much culture, so much life that it deserves to be seen and recognized. Yeah, so I think I held on to that when I would tell somebody I'm from Grenada and they're like, where is that? I'm like, what is that? You know? And you could tell like, oh, I know that, but they have no clue. So that was like really a driving force for me to be on like the right side of history, try and document, you know, this island in a way that I've been blessed to interact with it.
So tell me about your recent project where you're capturing, you know, some of the images, Jouvert in Grenada.
So last year in 2022, I was in Grenada for 4 months, and I stayed long enough to be a part of Jouvert and Spicemas. And I think for me, interacting with Jouvert was like, Jab specifically was life-changing. You know, I'm like from a Christian home. My mom wasn't really the type of person to go to carnival, and, you know, probably if she would associate Jab, she's just associating that with just like devilish, secular things, in her words. You
That's
know?
common though.
Very common. So I just really wasn't really aware, but I also knew there was some substance to what Jab represents, and I knew it was very real.
Yeah, but I was asking about your photography, and I mean, hopefully we can actually share some of the images that you've taken to really just, and you know, make this more real for people, so they can see the way that you've been able to really just capture like the essence of Jouvert and Grenada, or Jab.
Right.
So when you were documenting that, maybe you can tell me a little bit about what it was like to document that. Other than it being a life-changing experience, just tell me a little bit about what that was actually like being there. Was that your first time going to Jouvert?
Yeah, that was my first time going to Jouvert that year. It was different. Like, I was lucky because in where we live, a lot of people would like play a Jab well before Jouvert started.
Yeah.
And it would be like my cousins or like an uncle. And I would just wake up and then see them down the road in oil. And then people like, oh, he playing a Jab again. What wrong with that boy? Ta-ta-ta-ta, hooray-tay-tay. So it was almost something that was, I'm seeing people love it, and I'm seeing people saying, that's not me, right? So I think for that reason, once I got into it, when I was on the road the day of Jouvert, I felt like I was that much more ready. You know, I felt like I had a community around me. I felt like I had people who were looking out for me on the road. I felt like I had cousins, brothers, you know, elders, children. That's what you're seeing on the road.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when you're looking at it as a photo or on a video, when you're not there, you're thinking like, who are these people? What is this demonic stuff happening? Blah, blah, blah. But then when you're there, you're understanding and you're realizing these are just people. This is us. You know what I mean? And I think that facade of negativity, or however you want to call it, kind of just washed away after that.
Yeah.
You know? And it felt like I was definitely like a part of something, and connecting to something deeper. And just being in Grenada, you know, every step you take just feels like you're walking the steps of, you know, hundreds of people before you, my ancestors before me. Grenada is this type of island where things look very much similar to back in the day. You know, it hasn't changed too much. So yeah, it's this really wild feeling that you have because you're taking the same routes, and, you know, you're jumping in the ocean when you're done. You're grabbing a little leaf off a tree and you're scrubbing your skin down, and it just all feels like right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I would describe Grenada too. The place just feels right.
It just feels right.
Well, the way how I actually describe it, I just say like, this feels like life. That's what I always say when I'm there. When I'm like, yo, this is life.
This is life. This is
and
living.
I feel like that is something that a lot of people feel when they go back home.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, just like, yeah, like, like this is it.
This is how you're supposed to live.
Because up there, and by up there, I mean foreign, is like, even though I was born here, it's very dense.
Yeah.
It's very gray. It's very much like, and I always say it's very much a fight up here. No matter, it doesn't even matter. When you go back home, the way how it's a breath of fresh air, the way how all the things that you thought mattered so much up here don't matter at all when you're over there.
Exactly.
It's like, oh my gosh, the only thing that actually matters is me being in nature with family and enjoying my life.
Yeah.
Up here, it's like, oh, and I need to do this, and oh, I don't know. It's just two completely different vibrations.
Yes.
And just going off like that energy conversation, like I remember when I touched down in Grenada recently, I literally felt it instantly. I was like, oh my gosh, these feel like big, slow, energetic waves. Whereas here in Toronto, and I'm sure in many of the other big metropolitan cities in North America and in the Western world, it's like fast, sharp, like, but it's like all that racing and all that is just non-existent.
It's not
it's just slow. And I love that kind of slow life. You know, when I was there, I was like, this feels like luxury to me.
In the smallest ways, could feel like luxury.
It literally felt luxurious. I was like, I know people will say like this car, this, and that's luxury to them. But to me, like that level of peace and just bliss that I felt every day, I was like, this is literally luxury. That's my side note about Grenada.
No, I agree.
I always have to plug it in there.
I agree. And it took me a while. Like, it's funny. I'm like, a week vacation doesn't wipe off the Western world for you. Like, truly, it was only till like 2 months, a month and a half, I really started to like not think on such a pace or a speed or a perception or a level about people and things, you know, and just really started to like feel human again, you know. And I think just the way Grenadians live, really off the land, in with nature. Yeah, man, you don't need much to like feel like you're a king or like you're living like a queen, truly. You know?
Yeah, it's just every day just feels good.
Just good.
It just feels good. And you know, it's so funny because it's like for us up here, we're trying to like always find a way. Well, for me at least, it's like trying to wait, like, how can I get back? And then the people there are like, how can I go to foreign? Like, I need to get off this island. I need more opportunities. I need whatever. And we're like, I need to get out of this place. I need to go back home. So I think it's so interesting where it's like, we have this, I don't know what the word is. I don't remember the word right now, but it's like us up here want to go back. And a lot of them down there want to come up. Yeah. And sometimes when they come up, they realize, wait, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
No, truly.
This, maybe back in the 70s and the 80s, there really was that much opportunity and stuff like that. But I think people need to know, like, if you want to come to North America, to London, to New York, wherever right now, like, you need to be ready to grind. Like, if you think you're going to come here and there's just bare jobs,
And even those jobs, bro, you're grinding on a different level. Yeah. And that's not on Grenadian time. Just
like for example, like in the islands, I don't know if all the islands, but I know in Grenada, like if it's raining too heavy, nobody's not going to work. If it's raining, like wait for that rain to clear up here. 100%. Rain, snow, sleet, whatever, fire falling from the sky, you better find your way to work and reach on time.
Facts.
Totally different life.
Very different life. And I think that would help, truly. I think that was also a very common thing I was hearing when I was there, like how so many people still want to go to foreign, and I low-key wish they could. Like, I low-key wish it was easier for them. Just even maybe traveling is not enough, because when you visit you could still see rainbows, but like enough where they could come experience it, so they didn't feel that FOMO or like they were missing out, and they would understand how much they actually had in Grenada, you know, or if they were able to come, maybe get an education, bring those skills back to Grenada. Like it would change immensely, because it's not it really right here. Like,
I don't know, that's why I always say, like, why did our parents, grandparents, whatever, not have an exit strategy? Like, why do we just, and that's not me being ungrateful. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I have, and the fact that I even get to have this podcast and this equipment and whatever, you know, to have these conversations. But it's like, bro, nobody didn't have an exit strategy. Like, we're just supposed to come up here and just stay up here.
Facts.
So for me now, my like life mission is just like, how can I get to a point where I can come and go as I please? With ease. Like, I don't even have to think about it.
100%.
So if anyone has any ideas, let me know.
I'll let you know. Yeah, it'd be a dream to live back in Grenada.
Yeah, I know you were saying like
life.
you wouldn't want to live there for the whole year, and I agree.
Yeah.
There's some things about these big cities that I love.
Still.
Like I said, when I feel like I want Thai food, I know where to go. The whole world is right here in these big cities, and that is the beautiful thing about being here. But yeah, we're getting fully sidetracked.
We are a little bit. I did like what you were saying, though, about the need to want to come here, because I think it's like, it's like this halo effect. You know, they really think that they can prosper in Canada or in America. I think there's a lot to learn, but once we could really tap into how we make Grenada great, or to how to work in those industries within Grenada,
or any of the islands, really, because it's kind of the same story across the Caribbean.
Yeah, like
this license or that license or whatever, maybe if that's not available where you're from or something like that.
Something like that.
Because the only reason why I'm talking like this is I just want anyone to know who is maybe living in the Caribbean and really wants to come up here. Again, I encourage you to come here so you can appreciate what you have.
Yeah.
Because when you get here, you realize it's true what they say, that the grass is not always greener on the other side. Mm-hmm. And it's like there's this crazy marketing strategy or something that's just been perpetuated. It's like that, the idea that you have to go to university or you have to go to college to be successful, and then by the time people are done, they're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Sometimes people get here and they're like, yo, so like,
well, go on.
Yeah,
I feel like, I mean, I could only speak for Grenada. I feel like Grenada is a very unique position and island, and the way they've positioned themselves for years to come, and I think there's a big change happening, it was the norm for maybe one or two people from your family to go, and you know, they can go out and foreign, but they'll always still send stuff back, you know, or you're getting stuff in barrels that looks like it's, you know, easy to get.
But that puts so much pressure on the one person who goes over, because you 100%. Already know over
it's
here is
easy.
A fight up.
It's still a fight up.
So how am I supposed to be sending all that stuff to everybody across there? But getting back to, you know, your photography and your work, what are some of the ways that, you know, you want to continue to exhibit and to share these, you know, Black, Caribbean, Afro diaspora stories?
Yeah, I think obviously putting them in the right spaces. I've been looking at like different galleries, trying to create a photo book to type of, you know, circulate these stories, these moments, these images, collaborating with more creatives, photographers, designers, entrepreneurs from Grenada and these islands, and really tapping into their community and network, and then putting it in the mainstream media as well. You know, like I come from a background of marketing, events, activations, so I know this world really well, and Carnival, Caravana, you know, Jouvert are things that we haven't really talked about out loud, especially when it comes to representing our culture and our Caribbean heritage. And I think that's a great starting spot to be in. I don't think we have to like commodify it and make it like a brand thing where brands are stepping on it now and, you know, ruining what the integrity is.
Yeah, we have to protect
we have to protect it.
Yeah.
But I also think we need to like celebrate it out loud, you know what I mean? In like really loud ways. So I'm interested to seeing, you know, how brands and how we as creatives from the Caribbean diaspora, maybe now that we have more support, we're connected more, we might be more motivated to share these stories. We might now know we actually have the people who not only live it, but work it and create in these spaces to help push these stories forward in a really authentic, premium way, you know? So
yeah, it hits super different when it's like somebody, even if they weren't born on that island or whatever, but they still have very deeply connected roots to, you know, said place or said cultural practice when they come back to document that.
100%.
You know?
Yeah, I think we're seeing it in new eyes, right? You know, and because we're connected to Canada, like you always say, like I always ask myself too, like, why are we still here? Like you came, my mom landed here. How out of just one person out of everyone, you know, kind of got here? But maybe there is a strength to that. I'm sure our ancestors and what they were going through on that island, I think they knew the stories, the talent, you know, they had passions, they had dreams. And being here, although it has its qualms, its issues, its roadblocks, but we are, if you do have a goal and you do want to pour back into home, being here and learning from here is like probably one of the best opportunities, you know, to bring that energy back home.
I love what you're saying.
And I think it takes people from back home too to just say, yeah, this person loves Grenada. He loves me. He's not trying to big dog me in terms of what he's learned from there, but he's really just trying to like help me expand, help me grow, you know? And I think that's a big give or take. But when it's taken, I feel like it can really elevate. Like you look at Nigeria. Nigeria is a big country who has multiple industries, and they run oil and forestry and gas. So it's a big sector, all right? But their playbook is really, you're going to go to foreign, you're going to go to England, Scotland, wherever. You're going to get this education.
Yeah.
It's going to be in engineering. It might be in tourism. You know, it might be in food and agriculture, but you're going to get it and you're going to come back and you're going to bring it here, you know? And maybe we don't have the jobs or the companies or organizations like Nigeria does, even locally, because there's local Nigerian companies that are $1 million companies, right? But that only starts from, you know, me going, having this idea, having this knowledge, and then partnering with someone maybe who has the land or the passion or the visibility, or the funds to help bring this to life.
So it's really just about building up home.
Building up home.
Because what they call that is brain drain, where it's like you are from somewhere and then you go somewhere else for the opportunity, and so that money that you could have put into that economy or whatever, it goes because you're going to seek those opportunities, the education, elsewhere, the jobs, the whatever, right? So you're going to the States and you're staying there. There's that brain drain.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of brain drain that happens in, I guess, the Caribbean, but also we have to kind of think about this. To be able to go away is like a privilege that's not afforded to everybody.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it would be incredible if those people that leave come back and put something into the economy, whether they start a business or something, and then they're able to hire the local people who weren't able to go away. And then it's just like this win-win.
Exactly.
Something that I don't know if people realize, like the power of collaboration.
Yes.
When you start your thing, like your real thing, you're going to find your people that you need to connect with and your destiny helpers or whatever.
Yes.
And it's just like boom, 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 boom. All these people helping you all the way across or all the way up on your journey. So how has collaboration helped you in your journey as a photographer?
That's a great question. It's helped me in a lot of ways. One, it's even just helped me learn more. You know, every time I share with what I'm working on or what I'm doing with someone else, sometimes you're not always going to get a person who's interested or has anything to offer, but that shouldn't really slow you down or slow down your passion or your drive, because when the right person hears about what you're doing, they're going to want to help you, you know, regardless, without second guessing it. I think for me, just learning, you know, and the path that I'm taking, really trying to document these photos, but not letting it just live on Instagram or social, but having a place in the world for it to exist physically. I feel like I've gotten
You're talking about the photo book?
Yeah, like so with the photo book, for example, I'm getting a lot of help from my peers in terms of like print options, you know, different ways to brand it, different ways to storytell, different ways to work with layout, different ways to work with color, you know, down to who can probably support from a material standpoint, you know, what galleries are open that would be interested in it, you know, what residencies are available to further your craft. And yeah, so I think sometimes you need to speak about it, you know, and you need to tell people what you're working on, because then their passion for that same thing, whether they're related to it or not, it's either they're going to help you get to the next step or level, or they might even just like fill a need or a void that you're not specialized in, and the stories are better.
Sometimes also, obviously, there's the aspect of listening to your intuition, and maybe you might feel like, yo, I can't tell this person, or not yet. But when you feel like you've come to a point where it's like, hey, I don't know what to do next, sometimes all you have to do is have a conversation with somebody who's in an adjacent space, or maybe who understands something, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that's nothing. All you have to do is whatever, or oh, I know someone you can connect with, and just like that, it's like, oh my goodness, like. I'm one step
further,
you know? And I'm so excited for when you release that photo book so that I can get a copy and I can show my son. Cause one thing that we always do is like, I look and I share pictures of him of like Grenada, and this is the flag. And we have these different little history books of Grenada and stuff like that, because I just want him to know like where our family's from.
Right.
You know, I think it's important, even though for me, I'm second generation Canadian. But I think even with me starting this podcast, really the driving force behind that was that I started realizing that when I look around at my peers, a lot of us don't really know like about the history or the culture of these places that our family comes from. And that's because we're not there, or maybe because a lot of things weren't passed down in our families, because I think our families don't necessarily always recognize the value of sharing our stories and passing them down.
Exactly. Big time. And I think it's up to us to keep telling those stories, you know, and I think some of the stories that even our family has, our parents have, they might even be taking it for granted. They might not know
100%
that's a
take
key
it for
story.
granted.
They might not know that that was like another element of your own parents or of Grenada that you needed to hear to connect the dots. Truly.
And that's why I'm so excited for your photo book and for, you know, your work to be shared in galleries and stuff like that. Because could you imagine like a little boy who knows his family is from Grenada, and then he, you know, the first time he ever gets to experience Jab is just looking at one of your pictures in the ROM or something, and he just feels something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, whoa. Because I'm like, when you go and experience that, and I know you can attest to this, it's like you feel something.
Yeah, you feel something.
It's like I feel something. I don't know what this is, but I feel something. You know,
yeah.
and it's like that ancestral DNA or whatever, like getting activated when we see these things or hear these sounds, like the sound of the chain dragging or whatever. You know, it just lights up something in you.
Yeah, like hearing you say that, it brings me back to when, you know, I was playing Jab, and it's like the biggest ego death too. You know what I mean? Like the whole process of it. You're coming out with old clothes or whatever have you.
Yeah.
And then, you know, oil is being put on your skin, your clothes. So you're leaving with nothing because everything must throw. And then, you know, while you're there, you're so dirty with oil. You're so full of oil. You look like everyone else, like on a level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the aspect of classism, who's rich, who's poor, who has this, who has that. There's none of that, you know? So it's a big ego death where you're realizing like, wow, like this is just me in my like pure form, like nothing, you know, and this person sees me, that person sees me, this person sees me, and we're all here right now to like celebrate like life.
There's no man, no woman, just Jab.
No man, no woman, just Jab.
Yeah.
It's so true. I don't think we really like to talk about that or claim it. I don't know. I think obviously it was a shorter, maybe softer time period or blow. So maybe that was something we were able to wash off, knowing we created community so quickly. But yeah, I thought it was like an aspect that I wanted to honor, you know, because at some point, one of my forefathers was going through something, and that was something that I have no shame in recognizing or honoring, because I know where I'm going, and I'm sure it's only making them proud, you know. And then after Land for the Landless, I kind of had that 1 year, 8-month run where it was really on social media and pushing those photo series for that. And then now that we're really kind of getting into galleries and the book is closer to being made, I really wanted to evolve the name where it didn't take so much explanation. That's what I've just kind of broken down to you. But I feel like Land for the Landless is still the values and the emotion and energy which these photos are taken, especially because it's of Jouvert and Jab, which is rooted in emancipation and liberation. So I feel like it's still...
What's the new title of your newest project?
Dipped in Oil.
Dipped in Oil. I like that.
Yeah. I feel like Dipped in Oil still celebrates and honors in a way that empowers. I feel like maybe from what I've even been told when I shared the name with friends, I think the word landless kind of removes our own impact and involvement.
I mean, it can be kind of like a point of contention, kind of a little bit. In Grenada, they'll say like dab, like so they're gonna dab somebody up in oil.
Dab. I like that.
Yeah, dipped in oil, dabbed in oil, whatever. Yeah, I like it though.
Dipped in Oil. Yeah, that's the name. How I came up with that is I felt like, I don't want to say like a baptism, you know, but when I went in oil, it felt like I was being dipped in oil, you know. It felt like I was being engulfed in something new, and my spirit was like refreshed. It's like dipped in oil. And then just going back to the ocean, and you take a dip, and then you take, you know, take a wash up from there. So, yeah, I feel like Dipped in Oil is a softer name that allows maybe...
Yeah, so talk to me. I think that would be cool to hear about, kind of just more about your inspiration.
What identity meant for me, what reality meant for me, you know, as a black man with Grenadian roots, whose dad lived in Brooklyn and I'm from Toronto, you know what I mean? So I guess honoring all aspects of me was really important, you know, connecting back to my Grenadian roots and understanding what was that life about, what are my family still going through to this day over there, you know. Seeing the privilege finally in me being here and knowing they're there and understanding I have to work that much harder, you know, for my last name, and for Grenadians in general, like living in Toronto and then, you know, white people, whatever, coming back and saying, oh, I was in the Caribbean, da 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 da, and like, where'd you go? Like Costa Rica or Jamaica resort. It's like, and to me that felt so unfair, you know. It's like that you can just come to these islands, take a week on the beach, and just go and say you've been somewhere, you know, without honoring the land, knowing which land you're on, respecting the people who live there, really seeing the people who live there, not just working on the resorts. I think for me, I was always trying to like honor and exemplify our best qualities, but also sharing the knowledge that I learned by doing research about our history and saying, hey, we can have fun here, we could appreciate here, but we have to recognize like the fight that's been going on and still going on. There's still like an actual community that's residing there, you know, and who knows where that fight has to come from. You know, I feel like our fight is coming from helping Grenada and evolving it in that way in shape or form. And then hopefully by telling these stories and connecting deeper with our island and our heritage, it's not only Grenadians or myself who's gonna feel motivated, but also someone who's from Jamaica, also someone who's from St. Lucia, St. Vincent, whoever it is, to tap into their own communities, to tap into their own countries, their own history. And if they are here or they are home, it's just solidifying like the connection even more, you know?
I keep saying this on every episode now, and I'm just going to say it on every episode going forward. Every single one of us has a piece of this puzzle, whether you're from the diaspora, whether you're born, you know, back home in the islands or whatever. Every single one of us has a piece of this puzzle. We all have to come together and put our pieces together, find the match, put the pieces together, and push forward for the culture.
I agree.
Document in the right ways. You're a photographer, come. Let me take some picture. You do videos, come, let's video this. You're an audio guy, let's record these sounds, let's record this, let's record these stories.
Yeah.
So much of our history has been erased.
Right.
So much of our history we don't know. So many of us here in the diaspora have this like thing of like, yeah, I know I'm from the Caribbean, but I don't really know my family's roots.
Exactly.
I don't know my family's stories. I don't know my family's history like that, let alone the history of my island itself.
Exactly.
And it's not to say that it doesn't take work to find that out, like, oh, well, you can go do research to find your island's history or whatever. But some of these deeply like entrenched family history moments and things like that, like we don't have and we don't know. And so that's why I say every single one of us has to come together and do our part to document or do whatever it is that we need to do. You know what I mean? Because it's like that way the generation after us has some sort of archive or some sort of something
to fall back on. Yeah,
something that they can reference and say, oh, like that's what Jouvert looked like in 2002 or 2022. That's so cool because it doesn't look like that anymore, or we do it like this now, or oh my gosh, it's the exact same. Just having something to reference. I feel like we don't necessarily have that many points of reference because I think everybody just assumed that it would just always be
there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes us to really create these stories. It takes us to push it forward, because I mean, for our grandparents, they had to tell our parents all these stories and this knowledge through just teaching, through just talking. You know, us most of all, Black people, our history 10 times down has been erased. You know, specifically in certain areas. You know, we don't have the knowledge in writing in certain areas. Things that you've learned, you probably learned through your grandmother. I've learned through my grandma, grandpa. You know, and then we all come together like, oh yeah, we do it that way. Oh yeah, we do it this way. You know, so all our learning is just through discourse and communication. So I think as a creative, as a storyteller, whoever that is, that is so important to share these stories, to tap into it, to when you learn something, how are you going to empower the next person, and I don't think it doesn't only impact the creative person. I think it impacts everybody, It gives you a sense of pride, a sense of knowledge, a sense of belonging. So, you feel even more armed when you're living in this white society. How great does it feel knowing you're going to work? You might be putting up with some bullshit, but you could feel like you're walking with an army. You know who you are now. You know what you've went through. You know what your people are still going through. So this fight is more than just my family or my last name, And I think that's why it's important. I think all cultures and ethnicities are proud for their culture, for their traditions, And we have so many cultural traditions that are beyond Carnival and Pretty Mass and beyond certain holidays. And I think as we talk about those more and uncover them, we'll understand, those are worth celebrating,
When I went to Grenada in November, so this is like a month ago, I was really being intentional about documenting a lot of it and sharing it on my Instagram stories. And it was really interesting to see people's responses. People were like, oh my gosh, like I'm living through your stories right now. Like I love this. This is so incredible. And one thing that I realized, because I was only going to be there for such a short amount of time, when we go home, you're going home 3-4 weeks, longer, 4 months, but, I started realizing that there's so many stories in just like you mentioned, the everyday people in everyday life, beyond people. Carnival, beyond Jouvert, beyond playing mass. There's so many stories. Like I recorded my aunt, my grandmother's sister, going and feed the full. I just recorded that.
Just that.
And one of my friends messaged me. She's like, oh my gosh, I just love your Instagram stories right now. They're making me so emotional, because it's like, there's so many things that we can relate to.
Yeah.
And just by sharing that story or these stories of just everyday life,
yes,
it's just like you feel that.
You feel it. And I think things that are inherently Black for a long time have been shown to us we don't inherently have that, And when you're in Grenada, you're like, whoa, all my family is inherent chefs. They're inherent hunters. They're inherent fishermen. They're inherent farmers. Yeah. Everyone in Grenada knows how to swing a cutlass, knows how to plant, knows how to grow, So that inherently is a part of us. And those are things that we should be proud, that we do and that we embody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's nice because, like you said, when it gives you that sense of empowerment.
Yeah.
It's like when you know your history, when you know your people, when you know where you're from, it gives you this feeling of having a foundation that cannot be shaken. Beyond the foundation of God, that foundation, nobody can't shake that.
Yes.
But when you know also your history and you know where your family comes from, and that's your grandfather's land, and he used to take the cows from there to there. It seems like it's something so mundane, but it actually, it's it fills you up, because when, I don't know what it is about living abroad that puts kind of this big gap between who I am here and who I am in here. And I feel like people from the diaspora can feel what I'm saying right now. You know what I mean? But it's and when you go home and you get all these stories and you get to be on the land, it's it fills that gap. It makes the gap smaller and smaller. Yeah.
I agree. And that's definitely been a big reason for the photography. Sometimes people aren't able to go there physically. But how can the photos bring them into this setting, into this environment, mentally or spiritually, just by engaging with it? I'm also very passionate and believing that our culture is to be shared, especially with other Black folk in the diaspora, whether you're from African descent or lineage or American, come through, start a business, live on the land, be a part of it, be a part of Carnival. There's no rule saying, I don't know who made this rule, but to me, if you're a Black American, you have all access and, all blessings to come and enjoy and learn and be a part of it.
And I think some people would disagree with that, like fully, like, no, it's we ting.
Yeah.
But you know what's so funny? Like when you do go as someone who is obviously from North America, from London, whatever, you're actually embraced for the most part.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, like, okay, you're just from here, but you know where your roots are.
You know where your roots are. And it's like, as black folks, like if we see a brethren who doesn't know who their forefather is, or they don't, or they're living, it's like if you had an adopted little cousin and they're living at some different foster parent's house with a different culture, eating a different food, but you know inherently that is your offspring, that is your family, extended family. Why wouldn't you want them to come into your home and eat your food and see how you live and connect deeper, so that a deeper connection could be made, you know?
One of the things that I was hearing people say, like in the comments, is kind of the experience of living in the diaspora and being shunned, not shunned fully, but in a way where it's like, oh, like you guys are Americans, like we're Bayesian, or we're Trini, where you guys are from the States, like, you know, like you guys aren't from here, and kind of families creating that divide. And I don't think that, I think it's kind of like almost like a cycle.
Yeah.
Where we see it in different things. We saw it happen with our language, where, or like Creoles and stuff, where it's like keeping that away, and then eventually it
dies off.
You know, not all Creoles obviously, but for example, like Patois in Grenada is pretty much done. I'm sure there's maybe a handful of people that still speak it. I remember my grandmother said that her grandparents were the one that spoke it. You know, so look how many generations back that is, where the language is just gone. I don't know it.
Facts.
My child doesn't know it. I have to do so much more work to try to figure it out. And so it's just interesting to think about, you know, kind of like that identity of being in the diaspora, wanting to connect more with home, and, you know, whether or not you'll be embraced or. And I think, again, that's part of everybody kind of coming together and finding whatever their piece in the puzzle is.
Right. And that's the thing. And sometimes it's like a team, right? It's like an organization. Sometimes you're going to have bench players. You're going to have people starting. You're going to need trainers. You're going to need coaches. You know what I mean? And when it's a championship game, sometimes only the starters are playing. But we're all on the same team. You know what I mean? We're all a part of this together. And yeah, I think even for me, it took a while for me to be really accepted. You know what I mean? Like, I was accepted off rip because my last name, my family's here. You can't deny family, you know? But I was seen as
an
just
outsider.
Someone, just someone from foreign who's just come in for the local 2 weeks, you know? So I don't have to engage with you. Maybe I don't even respect you too deeply because I don't really want to get to know you and be disappointed, or, you know what I'm saying? You're just over there. So it took, I just always stayed to do what I do. But when they seen me doing what I do and what I do there, whether it's cutting bush, whether it's planting, whether it's taking care of my grandma, whether it's sweeping the yard, whether it's cutting coconut trees or coconut from the tree, you know, what it's doing, all of these things, just walking the road, staying outside till all hours, like telling everyone good afternoon, they really just started to see, wow, this man's Grenadian to the bone, but he's just not from here. You know what I mean? And they like would say, oh, that boy real Grenadian, you know, that boy real like here, you know. Yeah, it's two-sided. You know, I fought to be seen without fighting. And they obviously had to like release some old ways of thinking to just see me as a person. And I think, that just happens more when you be there. You show your face, you know. Some people are trying to act too cool still. A lot of people are like, yeah, boy, come, take a photo of me, take a photo of me, you know. And then the next time didn't bring it, they're like, where's your camera?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you really, for me at least, it's like I had to show them that like I respected them. I had to show them that I seen them, and I had to really live what I was living, you know?
You had to be immersed
in it,
and to like earn that respect and that trust first before you could start to document anything. 100%. And I understand that, because it just, if you just come out with a camera, it just feels like a gaze, like, yo,
it
like
does. Why are you just trying to
back up? like, you know. But if you're like showing that, no, like I'm cool, like I'm part of this, I'm doing this with you guys, like I'm waking up in the morning, I'm going to do the gardening, I'm chopping bush, I'm whatever, like I'm one of you guys too. Then people are able to put their guard down.
I think so.
And that's why you're able to get the shots that you got.
Exactly. And it felt really intimate because of that, you know what I mean? Because there's a familiarity between us. And the people who I would, and the thing is, I was shooting in film, so medium format. That thing is like this big, so there's no hiding it. Like it looks OD, you know. So already pulling that out, like people, there's no like. And street photography, it's a style too, where you can shoot at the hip, you can shoot a little lower, not looking through the viewfinder, so people don't know you're taking a photo of them, right? That's how a lot of street photographers would do it. But because my camera was so big, there was no hiding it, and I also didn't really feel comfortable a lot of the times, like just taking a photo without someone looking. Like I never didn't feel right. So I always had to engage with them and ask them. And a lot of the times, like people were like, "Why? Why do you want to take my photo?" Like they really didn't understand it. And all I could say in my head, I'm like, "Yo, I have one goal, and it's to show Grenada to the world. You know, I don't know, but I know you." Where you're looking, where you're set up, you look beautiful, you have a story to tell, and I want to show you to the world, you know? And you're like, I don't know what this man's talking about. Show me to the world. Take a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But even if that wasn't, I mean, that's still going to happen. But even if I didn't know it at the moment, I just believed wholeheartedly that's what that person deserved, to be seen. You know, like this person on this island just deserved to feel like the star, you know, and that's what was like my driving force to really capturing these people.
And you can feel that through your pictures, because when you were showing me some of your work, I was like, these look like album covers. And it's just everyday people just living their everyday life. And you can, even based on what you're saying, like you don't feel comfortable just, you know, quickly shooting pictures of people, like, and all the pictures that you showed me, they're engaging with the camera in some way where it's like, whoa, like looking straight into the lens, or like the way how they're moving. It's just like you feel it. I was looking at your pictures, and I'm telling you, I'm like, yo, I feel that. Like that's how, and that's what I love, is like some people are just able to capture that raw essence. And based on what you're saying, it sounds like to be able to do that, you really have to show like, yo, I'm one of you.
Yeah, truly.
I'm one of you.
Yeah.
And then people will like let their guard down and let you capture that essence. Yeah,
it's really interesting. Like even a few photographers who I've read about or even had the opportunity to like mentor me, who do this on like a full-time basis, even with photojournalism. This is after Grenada, you know, but they're even saying, like if I'm documenting a family, you know, a specific family for a news story, I'm like living with that family. You know, the camera's actually not coming out till like 2-3 weeks later. You know what I mean? And maybe in that one moment, that one day, they're getting that one photo to make the whole story, you know? And sometimes it's really just as organic as someone in the kitchen cooking. But now their whole guard is down because it's 3 weeks with this person, and you're able to take that one shot and you get it, you know? So it's really cool to know that I was in line with, I guess, how even professional
just naturally
photojournalists work, you know, just naturally. So it was a really proud moment just being able to really capture these images, and I knew leaving there that I really had something special. And now it's really just figuring out how, you know, people can interact with them and see them and give them a real space to flourish.
Where can people find you or your work?
On Instagram, Jerawl, Jerawl, and I have a website, jeraljordan.cargo.site. And follow on Instagram. I think that's where it's going to be the best place to stay connected and stay along for the journey. Been able to document Jab and Jouvert specifically, not only in Grenada, but in New York City too this summer, which was really amazing. And then also this summer, I was able to document Caravana, Toronto's Caribbean Festival, in partnership with Spotify, which was really dope. So I'm excited to see what Spotify is doing. One of like the first few brands that I've really recognized. I know like Nike, you know what I mean? There's individuals doing it in all aspects and facets around the world, but yeah, there's not too much of a blueprint.
And that's why it's even more important for us to come together.
Yeah. 100%.
To encourage each other and share resources and do all these things that happen in community. Like that's the power of community.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.